Welcome to the Elliott Confidential Podcast. My name is Christopher Elliott, and I'm here with my boys, Aaron and Iden. Elliott, how are you guys doing?
Doing good.
And we are in Busan, South Korea today. Didn't expect to be here, actually.
Thought this was a Japanese cruise.
I know.
Korean.
We took a detour.
Yeah.
We crossed the Strait of Korea late last night, and this is just part of the itinerary. We went and we did. We'll talk about our tour today, which was pretty interesting. But we really do want to talk about what's been happening in Japan, because I think this is the kind of cruise, an expedition cruise, that is worth doing, and we want to tell you more about it. But first, our question of the week, which is, have you ever done a detour on your vacation or trip, like an unexpected detour, gone somewhere where you didn't expect to go, like, I don't know, South Korea? Have you guys done anything unexpected?
Well, I think that we've always done detours. I mean, we end up going to one place and then we realize, oh, I actually want to do this other thing, as opposed to what I originally came here for. And detours we have made a lot of on this particular cruise. For example, yesterday when we were in Nagasaki, and we decided to just, leave the tour and do our own thing.
That's
Strike
right.
out on our own.
Yeah.
And you explore a lot of interesting stuff that way. So tell us in the comments.
I would say your life is full of detours. I mean, your plans change almost by the day, and you've got plans to go back to the States soon and go to a conference, but we never know what you're going to do. You're extremely unpredictable.
Well, I have an interesting detour coming up soon. I'm going to a conference called Vid Summit, and it's meant for people who are like in the marketing industry. And there's also a bit of a focus on YouTube and video marketing, etc. So I'm going to the US for that. And then I'm taking a detour to a friend of mine's hometown, and then from his place
in California.
That's
quite a detour.
Hopefully drive up to Spokane, Washington, where that's technically the residential state that I'm
that's
in,
where you live, right?
To get a driver's license, and then from there, Vietnam. So
Uncle
that's
Pete.
a
Yes.
very interesting travel plan.
And true to your past, I guess, detours, this could change at any minute. Like your plans, like one day you're going to Dallas and the next day you're going to LA. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see. So anyway, tell us about your detour, please. We want to know about it. The comments are open. We'll read your comments in the next podcast. And we've got some interesting comments from last week that we're going to read. Can't wait to get to those.
So, what do you guys think of Busan?
It's very rainy. What do you think, Iden?
Rainy.
Yeah.
Also, the infrastructure here is very interesting. The
yeah.
highway is scary to ride on.
Busan is the second largest city in Korea,
Yes.
and it's extremely developed. If you imagine a science fiction movie, like a dystopian sci-fi movie with lots of high-rise apartments that really are too big to be like normally, they're just huge high-rise apartments. That's pretty much what Busan is. And then like cut and paste along the entire along the mountains is just one apartment building after the other.
And these are not just any old apartment buildings. These are massive, colossal structures.
Yeah.
And it reminds you of those photos of, I don't know, like Istanbul or maybe Ulaanbaatar, and also some places in China. It seems to be like something with communism or whatever, that they build these similar looking monstrosity in the sense that they're enormous and they house thousands, if not tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of people.
Right.
And it's just interesting to see how this whole city was developed. And interestingly also, I was listening to the tour guide on our way back, because all of these tours are, you get in a bus.
Yeah, you get in a bus, right.
Yeah, because it's with a cruise. And interestingly, these highways that they built are based off of the engineers were taught in Germany
Yes.
by the same people who made the, what was it?
Autobahn.
Autobahn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you look at the infrastructure, it looks so American.
Yeah.
These highways look like they're interstate highways.
Yeah, even the signs look like you're driving down an interstate.
Yes.
So where do we go? We went somewhere today. Can you talk a little bit about that? We went first to a tomb.
Yeah, they have these giant buried tombs, and they look just like big hills
Yeah, giant earth
out in the
mounds.
fields, just
Yeah.
randomly strewn across. And some of the hills come in pairs, and those are for couples.
Yes, his and hers tombs. right?
Yes, and some of them are just alone, and they're for the old kings of Korea.
Yeah, this was the old capital that we went to. Fascinating place. Not that many tourists, even though this is a Saturday. And they had excavated one of the mounds, so we went inside and we saw, how they were buried, and really, really very interesting how this whole area developed. And we heard a little bit about the history of Korea, about the Korean War, and about Japanese colonialism. Very, very interesting, and how far really Korea has come, or at least South Korea has come since the war, where now everything is. It's a much more affluent country and much better developed, for better or worse, I should say, because these this kind of apartment living is not for everyone.
Exactly. But I think the most important point of this tour was it was a tour of the Shilla dynasty, which is spelled S-I-L-L-A.
Yes,
but
and
in
not
Korean.
S-H-E-I-L-A.
No,
as
not
in
Sheila,
Oshila.
like it's
Yeah.
like a woman's name. No, the Shilla dynasty was southeastern Korea, and that was southeast of the Korean peninsula, and it existed for 1,000 years, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And so these mounds were the tomb sites of the important leaders of this dynasty, and so a lot of interesting stuff happening here. They, for example, they built a lot of temples because the Shilla dynasty instated Buddhism as their state religion, and so we got to also see a temple.
Easily the most beautiful temple that we've seen so far, and we've seen a lot of temples. So we will post some pictures of those temples.
Yes.
And show them to you, because it's something that I think if you go to Korea, this is definitely one of the stops that you have to make. We also checked out the museum, which had the original items that they excavated from the burial mounds, and that was also really, really interesting. Fortunately, they had bilingual signs so we could read what these things were. Made out of gold and silver and just a lot of precious metals. These guys had some serious money too to spend.
Yeah. Well, we also, when we were at the museum, we found a 7-Eleven in the perimeter, which was surprising. Iden, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
It was a good 7-Eleven. We had some nice food.
How is it different from a Japanese 7-Eleven?
Well, Japanese 7-Elevens, they have more options.
Okay.
They have nice onigiri selection. There they had something like fried rice type thing.
Yeah, it was fried rice and mayonnaise rice.
Yeah. And we couldn't eat those, but just generally speaking, I think the
Onigiri,
Japanese.
can you just explain what an onigiri is?
Onigiri is a rice ball with some sort of filling, and
it's
then
shaped like a triangle.
it's shaped like a triangle, and on the outside they have some seaweed paper, and they're really good. But 7-Eleven, it's an American brand, but it was failing in the U.S., and then apparently a Japanese company bought it, and they fully own it. So really, you can't say, "Oh, I'm going over because 7-Eleven is like, American. It's very American."
Yeah, it's a
In
Japanese
reality,
company
at this point, it's a total Japanese company that just bought an American company, and so most things there are not translated into English except the onigiri, which is nice.
Let's jump back to Japan, because we've been in Japan for almost a whole week. Korea was the detour, and by the way, don't forget our question of the week, which is tell us about your favorite detour. But we have spent some time in Japan. The highlights, I would say, were Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and then we've done a couple of the coastal towns. What were your impressions, guys?
I think Japan really, when I look at it, Japan is unlike anything that I could have expected. When I come to Korea, though, I kind of expected Japan to look like that. It's interesting. where if you look at the temples and the way things are here, for example, the roofs are very distinctive, especially in the countryside. I expected Japan to look like that, where you'd have the big cobblestone streets and the particularly Asian-looking sort of gray-blue, what do you call it, roofings. And I just didn't find that in Japan. Japan is much more industrial-looking, minimalistic, and it reminds me a lot more particularly of Norway than it does of anywhere else that I've seen in Asia. Whereas here in Korea, I feel like any movie or any representation of Japan is really just a representation of Korea. That's what it feels like to me, at least.
Minimalism is very prevalent in Japan. Everything is only where it needs to be and nothing more.
Yeah, because the tsunami is going to take it away anyway, basically.
Oh, geez.
Hopefully not. Iden, you've been looking forward to this visit to Japan for such a long time. You've been studying Japanese. You studied Japanese for, I would say, almost 2 years.
It's been 2 years, yeah.
And I was very impressed. You were able to go into your 7-Eleven and speak to the cashier in Japanese, and you were able to ask for directions. I'm just, wow, that's, because Japanese is not an easy language to learn. But tell me about your impressions of Japan.
I watch videos on YouTube. I get recommended them all the time about, food in Japan, biking routes in Japan, surprisingly.
Really?
Scenic places to visit. So I've kind of had a little taste just by looking at all these videos. But, seeing it in person, it's a different experience, but it's very close to what I've seen and heard. All I've noticed really is that it's a lot harder to understand people speaking Japanese in person, whereas, you're listening to it on a computer and they're speaking into a mic and they're compressing the audio. It's easier to hear, but, some people have spoken to me in Japanese, and later on I'll think back and I'm like, oh, they really spoke to me in a very simple way, and I just couldn't understand in the moment. Like one of them was just saying that they couldn't speak English, and I just didn't understand them at all. And I said, well, what'd you say? I'm sorry, I don't understand. They're like, I just don't speak English.
I've been practicing my I don't speak Japanese face, which is like a deer in the headlights.
The thing is there's not much that you need to learn. You just need to say, do you speak English? I don't speak Japanese. Hello, goodbye, thank you.
I'm having a hard time with even those very simple phrases, I have to admit.
Even with goodbye is kind of tough because the way that everybody thinks you're supposed to say goodbye, sayonara, it sounds like you're leaving them forever and you're not going to see them again.
Well,
so you always have to say mata, but you might not actually see them again, and even then that kind of sounds weird. Like if you're going there for one day and you're at a cash register and you say mata, or no, usually they wouldn't even say that. Like let's say you're like with a tour guide, you wouldn't say that at a convenience store. That's a little bit too informal. But like let's say you say that to your tour guide at the end of a trip when you know you're going to leave, it just sounds awkward to me.
Yeah, I've been saying things in Japanese that I would consider the ritual slaughter of the Japanese language, where you say good morning is ohayo gozaimasu, and I've been saying ohayo gozaimasu, which is like
that's like Latin.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, you've also said arigato gozaimasu.
I'm just slurring my words. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just don't know much Japanese at all, so deer in the headlights, that's what I'm doing. I think, though, that there's more of a universal language if you bow slightly, if you smile politely.
And you have to give them a vapid smile, a cold smile.
Right, and you don't use any rude gestures. I try not to use my hands too much.
But that's very communicative.
Yes, they are very appreciative of that. They really value good manners in Japan.
Yeah, they also value recycling here. I mean, have you guys noticed that every place that they have a garbage can, there's like 3 of them. One of them is for specifically PET bottles, not the type of pet you're thinking of. Pet is a
Throw my pet away.
it's a type of plastic.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to separate the cap from the bottle. And you're also supposed to separate the plastic that is like the packaging. So just the bottle, and then you throw the cap and the piece of plastic on the top of the bottle that is like shows the brand in another one that's just general non-burnable trash, and then you put like paper and wooden things in the burnable trash.
Combustible.
Yeah, combustible.
Wow,
So,
I had no idea. We're not done with Japan, not by a long shot. So this next week, we're going to be touring the rest of coastal Japan and then heading toward the capital. Really looking forward to that. There's a lot that we don't know about what we're going to do. We just have a very vague idea of what our schedule is.
Yeah.
So we're going to...
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty interesting. And speaking of vague, our last podcast, I talked about how we sometimes would wake up in the morning and not know where we were. And I asked our listeners if they ever woke up in the morning and not knowing where they were, and they did. Barb says, I wake up at home and I wonder where I am. No kidding. I do wonder how the weather is going to be since it's so weird these days. And I wanted to say, also, you missed the opium farms when you were in Thailand.
Oh, well. We'll have next time.
So yeah, I don't think we're going to be doing any opium farms while we're here in Japan. Mickey says, my last trip to Japan was a fast turnaround. I got into Tokyo in early evening and had to catch the bullet train, the Shinkansen, which I'm sure I mispronounced.
Shinkansen.
Thank you, guys. Someone told me that going for a swim would help hydrate me. I didn't unpack. I put my swimsuit and robe on, and I went to the pool. And when I got back to the room, I realized I hadn't unpacked. I decided to sit down for a moment, and then I woke up 4 hours later, still in my robe and my swimsuit. I think I've done that before.
Whoa, man, that's trippy.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I have situations like that I've happened before. Sometimes I'm so tired that we'll go to a place and I'll fall asleep, like maybe on a bus, and I'll wake up on a couch, and I'll think to myself,
I've seen you sleeping in places that most normal people don't sleep.
how the hell did I get on this couch?
Nancy says, before I retired, I traveled a lot for work, and once after traveling to several cities, I woke up in the wee hours trying to remember where the bathroom was. I broke out laughing when I realized I was in my own bedroom. That's good. I love it. Jonathan says, thanks for all the kind words, and it was great seeing you. Wishing you safe travels on your never-ending journey. Jonathan,
right.
Of course we met Jonathan in Chiang Mai. Yep. That was fun.
That was lots of fun. I like Chiang Mai. Certain parts of it were really fun.
Yeah. Well, seeing Jonathan was like one of the highlights of being in Chiang Mai.
Yeah.
Sam says, we arrived in Bandar very late at night, finally going to sleep at around 2 a.m. At 5, the TV came on at full volume with the man speaking very loudly in Arabic. We sat straight up. What? Where are we? Scared us, and the TV couldn't be muted or turned off. We finally realized, after several disconcerting minutes, it's the morning call to prayer. We've had that happen to us, haven't we?
Yeah. When we were in Qatar, we got woken up.
Turkey. Every morning we got
yeah.
woken up by the call to prayer.
I'm sure in some countries they're louder than others.
Turkey was pretty loud.
Yeah.
Turkey was really loud. Our question of the week for this week is, have you ever taken a fun detour, an unexpected detour, and you want to talk about it? Our comments are open. We would love to hear from you. Hey, one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about before we got off was the ship, the Lindblad / National Geographic Resolution.
We're moving now. We just started moving.
Yeah, I know. The ship just started moving. It pulled out. It's pulling out of the port. What do you think of this ship here that we're on?
It's quite nice.
Quite nice.
You know, I like it. I think that it's pretty, some parts of it are pretty standard. I like the spacious rooms because I think that, having seen other ships, I know that it can get pretty cramped.
Oh, yes. We have been on in small rooms before.
Yeah, I like the fact that this is really well designed for cruises. Like every single cabinet has a locking feature, so that way, motion doesn't affect it, which is wonderful. This is a smaller boat than I think the last one we went on, which was the Hurtigruten.
Yes, that was the one that we took down to the Antarctic. That was a larger ship. This ship actually does go down to the Antarctic.
Yeah.
It does, and it has the icebreaker in the front, so it's actually meant for, it's not meant for these waters, it's meant for polar waters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit overprepared.
A little bit, yeah, I would say. And it is, my understanding is that after it's done with Japan, it's heading down to Southeast Asia, where we just came from, so
they're doing some similar cruises. Like they said they were going to do one of Okinawa and Taiwan.
Yeah.
And after that, something else.
I would be interested in seeing Okinawa and Taiwan, but we can always come back.
Yeah, I mean, we can always do that later.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the ship a lot. The crew has been very friendly. They really invest a lot in training. You can tell these guys know what they're doing. They're extremely friendly and accommodating, and the food has been pretty decent too. I mean, I would say the breakfasts are the highlight. Aaron doesn't agree with me. I mean, I love the fact that they have fruit. I've been on ships where they run out of fruit halfway through the journey and they start on the canned fruit.
Oh, that was the last boat we were on, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
They started going for like the canned. It was the canned pineapple.
Yeah, there's no resupply in the Antarctic, so you have to take it all with you. But today, for example, they made us extra special. They made us some vegan pancakes. They were really good. You didn't have them. Oh no, you did have them, Aaron.
I did have them.
And I didn't wake up in time. Anyway.
Yeah.
Ship is good if you are thinking about doing a cruise, an expedition cruise. The Lindblad cruises are great. They're priced a little on the higher end, but you get a lot for your money, and you get a lot of individual attention too. There are many seminars that they have at the end of the day where they talk about history and things like that. And I think that if you're kind of a history buff, you would really appreciate that. Anyway, we are off to actually, the ship now is moving and we're headed back to Japan, so we will report back next week and tell you all about the second part of our adventure in Japan on our coastal cruise. So we'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
All right.
See you guys later.
Bye.